Today on the Diz List, we count down the top 5 rethemed rides at Walt Disney World.
Hey, Rob.
I didn't know when you were going to start.
So just so we're clear, the title, the intro on YouTube is like a set amount of time.
Yeah.
And so, like, I purposely made it set for the gap between you introducing and me saying welcome back and all that.
So they're probably watching me, like, looking around.
Yeah, I'm going to just put in some
ring.
I'm going to put in some goofy stuff, I guess. Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that lists everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob. And on today's episode, we are going to count down the top 5 rethemed rides. I came up with an idea right before you said that. So at school the other day, I came in and was talking to Nick, and he had a soccer team in there. And we were kind of going back and forth about funny pictures. And as soon as you said, "Oh, I'll put something in there," Nick says to everybody, "Well, you know, on our YouTube page, when you're pointing at the camera, there's some funny faces there." And then I'm thinking, as you're saying you're gonna put something in there, I fully expect now that there's going to be funny stills of me, like, from all the episodes, like, pointing at the camera.
I'll find some really good ones, and what I'll do is I'll try to download that screenshot you took of me during that interview where the guy said after our soccer game.
Oh, start from the beginning. Okay. This is a good story. This is funny.
We win this soccer game pretty big, and this guy comes up to interview us and says, Here with the Blue Devils volleyball team," and I was like, "This is the look I goes."
Your lip was curling. You had a little Stallone
I was
snarl.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and then he couldn't think of the name of the team you were playing, so you had to help him out a little bit. You had to say the name of the other school.
Not only that, because it was a merged team. So, like, schools merge sometimes for sports. It was a merged team, and he picked, like, one school was from, like, they were 2 hours apart. And it's like, why would they merge? Like, tell me you don't know geography without telling me you don't know geography.
The Albany-Syracuse Meerkats.
It's like, what?
What? They're a little far apart.
Yeah. Anywho, I just wanted to point out, thank you guys so much for the feedback from last week. I was worried about hate mail, and we got a whole bunch of people saying, "Nope, you're right. This was a bad look on Disney's part." And they, for Disney's credit, they doubled down this week. They raised other prices.
Yeah.
There's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry. Not only are we going to increase that, but we're also going to increase the price of pretty much everything."
Well, I was curious too what the feedback would be, because it wasn't really a list. It was, if you're a Patreon member, it's closer to what we do over on Patreon.
Absolutely.
Where
Yeah.
We just kind of have a discussion, which is fine, and that's kind of what Nick and I do, and we're chatting at school anyway. So I was just kind of curious how it went over, and we'll probably do more of that from time to time. And I realize, like, the word list is literally in the title of our podcast, which we love and we enjoy doing, but occasionally we will deviate when we have to. But that was a fun one.
It was a list of grievances.
Yes, I think that one went over better than me being ticked off at D23.
Slightly better.
Yeah.
And by slightly, I mean a whole hell of a lot better.
People were not happy with me with my reaction towards D23.
Yeah. So this week, I'm fully expecting you to have a more comprehensive list.
Maybe.
And that's simply because you have been around Disney longer. That said, I do have a couple on my list that I've never experienced the old ride, but at the same time, I've seen ride-throughs, or I know what it was, and I just know, like, this is a good retheme.
Well, some of them,
great ride.
Some of them too. It definitely one on my list. I barely remember.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a long, long time ago, and I did almost all of them, I think.
Okay.
No, not well. There's some honorable mention ones that I think maybe we'll spend some time on our Patreon and discuss a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think a Patreon episode where we go deep, do a deep dive. Maybe we can even do like we name the ride that's been rethemed, and then we say which version we prefer. Let's do that.
Yeah, and for example, if it's one we don't know or have not experienced, you could just say, well, I probably prefer this.
Yeah.
Or even you can look around on YouTube and you can still do ride-throughs on most of these.
Yeah.
If not all of them. Because I currently don't have the entire library of all of YouTube in my head. I wonder how many, and you might know this actually.
I don't know. If you're about to ask
how many hours just, or how much, is on YouTube at that point. Those servers must be absolutely massive.
It's gotten
to store all
It's
that
gotten to a
information.
point where they actually like measure it in millions of hours per week that get added.
Wow.
It's crazy. The content that's
we're
created.
part of it here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
We do audio and video. It's
yeah. I mean, it's crazy what you can. I tell kids all the time in my class, like, you guys live in an amazing time. Like, if I needed to know how to like jump a car when I was 16 years old, I would have had to ask my parents or whatever. They can pull out their phone, and this is how you jump a car. Okay,
Jeez,
well,
I do that stuff all the time.
Or like
my mower's broken. I look it up and I fix my mower. Like it's stuff like that is so beneficial.
Welcome to two old guys discuss random stuff.
Well, or I call you, or I call Mark, or somebody else that I know knows the answer to my question.
I just realized that this is like we're starting to go off the rails here a little bit, but it's true. But YouTube,
no, but it's all related.
Yeah. YouTube has a crazy amount of stuff on it, and if you want to go plan for a trip, obviously, that you can do a deep dive about Disney. You can do a deep dive about Aulani and going to Hawaii. So a lot of cool stuff, and the Disney stuff on it. The Disney YouTube is you can find anything. You can find the people who like to rant. You can find the people who just like to prop Disney up all the time. Then you find people like us who are willing to call them out now and then, but also just love Disney despite their flaws.
Yeah,
so
because we're not sponsored by anything.
No,
other than magicmerch.art, which is our company anyway.
Yeah, right. Magicmerch.art and Patreon,
which you're wearing today, actually.
I am. I'm Buzz and Woody 2024.
Oh, an election shirt, huh?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was appropriate.
Well, it gives me an idea.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Why don't we jump into the list?
Yeah, let's jump in. My number 5 on my list is one that is currently closed because it is being refurbed and rethemed again.
So,
is it your 5 also?
It's not my 5, but I know where you're going.
Yes. So my number 5 is Test Track. So Test Track, I love. I know you love it too. I'll be honest here. I rode World of Motion. I know I did. I was there during that time period. And I've watched a ride through semi-recently, maybe within the last month. Not really researching for this episode, but just, going through YouTube and just looking up stuff, whatever comes to my mind that has to do with Disney.
I think didn't we rewatch it when we were doing a thing about the D23 announcements, maybe? Yeah. I think that's probably why.
And I truly don't remember a ton of it. I don't. I remember part of Horizons. I don't really remember a lot of this particular ride. I remember my father really liked it because he's really into cars, and he thought it was really cool, and he always enjoyed doing this attraction. So this is one of the ones where I don't really remember it before very much, but riding Test Track when it works is great. It still made number 5 because I really enjoy it, and I would consider it a thrill ride because the very end is so much fun. But I think I've had worse luck with this ride than Rise of the Resistance. You've had worse luck with Rise of Resistance. I've had a perfect track record with that one, knock on wood. But when it comes to Test Track, I say more often it is goofed up in some way mid-ride than it isn't. Like it'll stop or like something goofy will happen mid-ride. Does that happen to you before?
I've never been goofed up mid-ride. I would say Test Track is my second most down ride. If that makes,
sure,
it's down the second most for me, or something's wrong with it the second most compared to, like you said, Rise of the Resistance for me.
And you had a big issue with weather one time too.
Yeah, weather. I mean, you can't control the weather, obviously, but for sure, I've had some issues with that. I think for me, probably the biggest one with Test Track I've had is computer issues
Sure.
because it's all timed and they have to time it very well because of how fast everything goes. And I would say there was one trip where we had it go down on us 3 or 4 times, where we got in line and it went down. You'd have to leave, and then you came back and it was raining, and then you left, and then you came back and it was a computer issue. But it's a fun ride, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Well, I'm going to end with this here, and then if it is on your list later, maybe it isn't, you can go a little bit more into pre-show or maybe what it's going to be. But I would say if we're looking at World of Motion versus Test Track the way it was, I don't even want to say previously.
Yeah.
We're going to say the version we're all listening to, no, because it's not open yet, right?
Correct.
I would say as far as an upgrade is concerned, that is a enormous upgrade from going from not really memorable to me, who has a really good memory for that stuff, to being a thrill ride that everyone remembers bursting out those doors and going 64 miles per hour, however fast it goes.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
is it 64?
It's up there. I believe it's the fastest ride in Disney World.
Okay.
So,
but that's my number 5.
My number 5 is one that I don't know that you would even think of, but my number 5. I want to rewind a little bit. I had to, because I'm so new to Disney, look up what this replaced, because I didn't know, to make my decision whether or not this was a good thing. And Space Ranger Spin is my number 5. It replaced a ride that I didn't even really know existed, but it was sponsored by Delta Airlines, I believe.
Yeah.
It was called Take Flight.
I actually copy-pasted all the different versions here. I'll go through them
Yeah.
quick. The very first one was from 72 to 89, and that was called If You Had Wings.
Right, and then the next one was Take Flight, right?
Then it was If You Could Fly.
Okay, If You Could Fly.
Then it was Delta Dream Flight.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, and then it was Take Flight, and then it switched to Buzz Lightyear.
And,
so they were sponsored by airlines.
And like, I get it. It's in Tomorrowland, right? It's funny to me that was in Magic Kingdom. It screams Epcot, right? And you look at what it is now, and it's one of my favorite rides. And does Space Ranger Spin need to be updated? Yes. Yeah. We both agree on that.
We've had some crazy ideas for how.
Right. I think it needs to be updated. I don't necessarily think it needs to be rethemed. Like, I like the Toy Story theming. But it definitely needs to be updated. The lasers aren't great, and I feel like the animatronics or the figures could do with a nice cleaning and maybe repaint. Yep. Or more screens like they have in Midway Mania.
Yes.
But I do think this ride is an amazing ride, and it's one of my favorites. But the reason it's not higher than 5 is because of the fact that it really does need some TLC.
Yeah.
So I don't know a lot about what it replaced, but what I read and what I looked at for pictures, I mean, obviously it was a good move.
Well, I'm also 2 for 2 now with ones that I know I have done because I've been there during that time.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember it. I don't. I remember the Delta logo, and I remember kind of what the font looked like for Dream Flight, I think. Yeah, I remember seeing. Well, that actually it is Delta Dream Flight. That I really remember.
Yeah.
But didn't really stay with me.
Yeah. So that's why obviously.
So let's look at it as an upgrade.
Yeah.
It goes from not super memorable to definitely memorable.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and besides,
how I try to look at it here too. For me,
now we have something for your wife to compete at Disney. She's the biggest competitor I know at Disney.
Yes, you two are a good match because you were both extremely competitive. So it was interesting. I mean, my wife ended up winning, but
she
only
was a
because
galactic hero.
Yes,
because we got stopped in that room.
So I think at some point when we're at Disney again together, you two can play again and see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely got stopped in the room where all the big point value targets are, and for some reason our cart was wouldn't move, so we were stopped. Like we couldn't even move the cart.
Yep.
And she was aimed right at the right spot. And I was like, oh, this is not fair, but it's okay.
Our last couple trips, same thing. We end up and her scores maxed out every time.
Oh.
So it turns out, okay, who can be second place?
Yeah.
You know.
You don't want to beat her because
Well,
then maybe it wouldn't be a good rest of the day.
Yes, that's true. Then you look at it's kind of like you're running in a race and somebody on your team is the best runner. Who's going to be number 2?
Oh, it's still great.
No, I know that. It's like, okay, who's going to be who? And not. I just mean when we go and we all ride with her because she's so competitive.
And she got to get the sticker.
Yes.
So that's kind of
where
cool.
that sticker went.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
somewhere.
It's the fact that she's ever got one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool thing. So, yep, number 5 for me, Space Ranger Spin. How about number 4 for you?
Number 4, I remember both of these. I remember these very well, and they're over at Epcot, and it is Maelstrom and Frozen.
Okay.
I remember both, and I remember from Maelstrom how exciting it was to kind of go down. I mean, it's similar to Pirates of the Caribbean where there's like a little mini drop.
Yeah.
And you don't really expect that at old school Epcot. They didn't really have a lot of exciting thrill anything. If you think about it, if you're talking, 80s, mid 80s to early 90s, there wasn't really anything at Epcot that I can think of right now that was, thrilling.
Right.
Maybe the first ride that came through is really that thrilling was maybe it's in the Land Pavilion where I'm blanking.
Soarin'?
Soarin'. That would maybe be the first thing that was kind of, or was Test Track first?
Well, I mean,
Was it Test Track or Soarin'? Because it would be
Test
one
Track
or the other.
2.0?
Was the first.
Yeah, I don't know which one came out first. We'll have to look that up.
Okay. But I would say Frozen is an excellent ride. I'm not a huge fan of how the projections on the inside of the faces have aged. It just looks really strange, and you had a fun word for it, and if it's on your list, I'll let you talk about that a little bit more too. But I remember Maelstrom being really fun, and one thing I remember specifically about this ride that I liked is that there's a point, and I believe if this is the same spot, right where you see Anna, where your boat goes right towards, no, Elsa, sorry. You see Elsa singing.
Yeah.
And she's up singing Let It Go.
Yeah, that used to be like
You
looking
go
out.
It's almost like you go outside, and your boat, like the very end or the point or is that the bow, the front of the boat? It goes like right out the window, and you're like, holy cow, we're going to go over a waterfall because you can see like the daylight out there. And then at that moment, you go backwards. I think that was the point where, because in the Frozen ride, that's where you also go backwards because you're watching Elsa sing to you. That I remember that really, really clearly, and that was cool. Now I look at these as, is it an upgrade? Yeah, it is, but I remember the original being really cool too. So yes, it's an upgrade with a lot of cool things. The animatronics, great songs, but I would say the original was really cool too.
Yeah. Why don't we keep talking about it? Because it's my number 4.
Perfect.
I think this particular ride is an amazing ride. It's a great way to bring in IP. I do think that the original, again, I did not experience the original, but I've seen plenty of ride-throughs of it. I think the original was more in line with Epcot's theme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point, though.
But I do think that this was a really good retheme. I think it was very well done. I think that it has staying power. And so, yes, the animatronics are in desperate need
Most of
some help.
The projection ones.
Yeah, the projection ones.
Like Sven is really good, and Olaf is really, really good.
I agree. But certainly the projection ones do need some help. But, those are things that could be easily fixed.
Yeah, agree.
And so for me, because they could be so easily fixed, that particular ride does have that staying power. They don't need to go through and gut it. It's literally, they could do like a Hatbox Ghost type thing where, hey, we've built this animatronic.
Yep.
We're going to shut down for a week.
Yeah.
Boom. There you go.
Plug it in.
So that's kind of what I think should happen.
That's definitely doable.
In the next round of refurbs over in Epcot, I think that's something that should happen. Because those it does detract from the experience. It's gotten that bad how they've aged. So, but yeah, that's my number 4 as well. So we're going to head off to the halftime show, brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/DizlistPod. If you want to join Patreon, it's less than a cup of coffee a month. Or you can join for free and get added to our close friends group over on Instagram. Once you sign up, just send us a message with your IG handle and we'll add you there. If you sign up as a paid member, you get early access to new episodes as well as bonus content. We do an extra episode each week that we publish. It's a little bit shorter, but not too much. Sometimes they're a half hour, sometimes they're 20 minutes. We never really know.
Depends on how much coffee I've had.
Exactly, or how soon the Bills play.
Also true.
But we're going to head off to the halftime show, and we'll see you right after this. Welcome back. So now this half, we've got our top 3.
Yep.
So far to recap, you had Test Track and Frozen.
Yes.
I had Space Ranger Spin and Frozen.
Yep.
What do you have for number 3?
My number 3 is another one that I don't think you had the experience of riding. And this is a difficult one for me because I do agree that it's an upgrade, but not by a lot. So my number 3 is going to be Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway and The Great Movie Ride.
Okay.
That's my number 3. And I really enjoyed The Great Movie Ride for a lot of reasons. The interactive element where you have a cast member who's actually on your vehicle, who's kind of taking you around like it's a tour, but then they become involved with the story where like there's a gangster shootout or all kinds of really, really cool things were part of that ride. It was very different. It wasn't like anything else at Disney World. And a lot of people were very upset when they decided to close or we'll say retheme that ride. I think Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway is a fantastic ride. It has great music. The animatronics that they have are great. The projections are excellent. The trackless ride system, I definitely think it is an upgrade. But this is another one. I like The Great Movie Ride better than Maelstrom. I would rank that higher, and I kind of take that into account when I'm ranking these. I think The Great Movie Ride was excellent. This is still an upgrade. So for me, my number 3 is going to be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Curious if you have that on your list. I guess we'll see. That's my number 3.
Okay. My number 3 is one that was on your list already. Test Track.
Oh, great.
I think
Which I know you love, and your son especially.
Look, as I said, we've had some issues with it going down. But it was really that first ride that I absolutely had to do with my son. He was so, like, we have to do Test Track. And I can remember that first trip, because we thought it was our only trip. You know, you got to make sure you get everything in. Shut up.
Always a good story.
Shut up. So I can remember, like, grabbing some Pop-Tarts and heading over there. Like, okay, we're not even going to eat breakfast. We'll eat breakfast later. We hopped on the monorail, got to Epcot, and went over there because we wanted to rope drop it. And again, we're in line, and wouldn't you know,
I have a sound effect for this.
They come over the loudspeaker and say, "We're sorry to," whatever they say, and you're like, "Oh man!" But my son was kind of into cars at that point, and like into he's still. I mean, we'll look at those the rides in the queue, not the ride, the cars in the queue, but like he's not as into that now. But at the time, it was like, look at that thing. Can you imagine? So it was okay. It was fine. We were just having a conversation. When we finally got to go on it, he was like, oh my God, this was so cool. Mm-hmm. I built this and we beat this person. And did you see where we ranked? Like the whole idea of like the ranking stuff of the tests. I am very, very, very interested to see 3.0.
I was just thinking that because if it's this good now, well, the inside is a little dated. It almost looks kind of like Tron at times on the inside. the Tron, the original 80s movie, not the Tron ride I'm referring to.
I agree with you.
I highly, highly doubt that it's not going to be, that it will be worse.
I think
it's got to be better. It's got to be so cool.
They said they're going to have nods to World of Motion.
Sure.
I think where World of Motion was about kind of the evolution of the automobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see the evolution of electric vehicles. And I think instead of selling me a truck at the end, they're going to sell me an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
That's my only gripe. And those of you who are longtime listeners know that I feel like every time they're trying to hard sell me at the end of it's like, you just rode test track. Now buy a truck. It's like, what? I have one at home? Like, I don't know what to tell. And like, even when it's closed, there's still 2 cars parked out front with a dude with a clipboard. You're like, would you like to sign up for some mail? It's like, no, I don't want your mail.
Well,
like,
here's my question for you then. Do you think they're still going to have the interactive build your car element, or is that going to go?
I think that is there to help control the loading. And so I do think that something will be there, whether it's design your own or that's a very good question. They've got to do something because it serves a purpose, right? Just like the stretching room serves a purpose, just like the pre-show rooms for Cosmic Rewind or for Rise of the Resistance, those serve a purpose. So I do think that they're gonna have something. I don't know that it'll be the touchscreen design your own car thing.
Here's what I would do, and I think this would be so much fun. So that the design your car, exactly the same. You can make it as crazy as you want, as wild as you want. You ride the ride, but the ride doesn't have to do with, the way it handles or the brake system or things like that. When they do the ride photo, they superimpose your vehicle over your car. So you go home with everybody cheering and going fast in the car, but your crazy car with the wings and the flames on the side is in that photo. It's part of, hey, we're going to sell you the photo pass.
I mean,
wouldn't that be fun?
It'd be interesting.
It could be great.
I don't know.
I would love it. I would ride it over and over just to get funnier cars, weirder cars,
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be a good keepsake to take home.
I'm trying to think of how they would do it. I know they could use your Magic Band, right? But like currently the entire car has one photo.
Yeah, so the way
it would have to
could
be
link, so if
almost like a magic photo.
If it's linked to my Magic Band, right, and my Magic Band is linked to Kid 1, Kid 2, and my wife, what would happen is all 4 of those photos could load in. So you would get all 4. You would get, or I feel like we've done it in groups of 2.
Yeah, it's groups of 2, I believe.
So if it's groups of 2, and you have a family of 4, you would get 2 different photos. You would get car 1 and car 2.
I think it's an interesting. I think
that would be an easy, fun way to do it, and they would just have to track what vehicle you were in and your Magic
don't
Band.
give Disney any ideas about how to sell more stuff.
Well, I don't know if it would necessarily be. I think you would just have to buy the photo pass, and it would be part of that photo pass.
Selling more stuff, though.
Yeah, that's true. But for me, that's a must.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I was mostly being sarcastic about the don't give them ideas to sell more stuff, but yeah. So for me, number 3, Test Track 2.0. Can't wait for 3.0.
Sure,
it's gonna be great.
I know this next one is going to be on your list because I know you love this one. It could be number 1. It could also be number 2. And this is kind of what gave me the idea of this episode for retheming is I decided let's do Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Splash Mountain as number 2. And I know where you're going as I can see your expression right now.
I'm perplexed, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm perplexed about this, about the fact that this is... Okay, go ahead. Just go.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I'm ready for it.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So number 2 I put as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So the ride itself, so if I'm comparing A and B, which is sort of how I've made this list, Splash Mountain was amazing. Okay? Don't get me wrong. I realize why they had to retheme it. It's culturally insensitive. all about that. That's fine. So the thing is, this particular ride is an upgrade, but not really an enormous upgrade because it's kind of putting in new animatronics. The animatronics are better than ever. Not, arguably not the best in the whole park, but could be 2 or 3 potentially.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm just maybe not the best in the park.
Shaman is still my favorite. That's my number one.
Okay.
In Disney World, not in the park.
I was like, what? Okay, we're good.
In the park, yes.
Okay.
In that particular park.
Yep.
In Walt Disney World, I would say the Shaman is probably the best animatronic in my mind. But as far as Magic Kingdom, that's definitely the best. The best animatronics.
I misinterpret. Well, I didn't misinterpret. I think you misspoke.
Well, I meant in all of Disney World, not that specific park.
I agree with you then.
Yeah.
We're good.
I mean, there's some good ones, but there's none of them that are as good as the Lewis and all of them. Really, they're incredible. Yeah. Also watched the ride through this week. I don't know if you did yet, of Disneyland's version of it. And it's interesting, the track layout. There's certain places where when you're riding on Tiana's and you look down, you can actually see other people's cars going down a waterfall or like a flume drop under you.
Right.
It's really cool. Like when we were out there, we didn't do Splash Mountain for the last time. So I wasn't really aware how their track was laid out. Yep. It's definitely not the same as Disney World. So it was cool to watch. There were definitely some differences in the 2 rides, not only the track, but a few things here or there. So I would recommend watching that. I don't really say one is way better because they're so close. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to say. I mean, if you really want to split hairs, it's like when I'm comparing the 2 Haunted Mansions, I have a lot of things to talk about because there's differences, but they were both excellent. So for me, Tiana's Bayou Adventure was a great ride. Splash Mountain was also a great ride, but it's not like they added an extra drop. There's more water. That's, you had warned me about that. You definitely get more wet, and you do.
Yep.
So that's true. So that's a little bit of a difference. Is it an upgrade? Definitely. It's a great. They could do this with a lot of rides. It's a fresh coat of paint. It's the greatest animatronics around. It's like the animatronics that they did in the Belle or the Beauty and the Beast ride. I don't remember if it was Tokyo Disney or if it was Shanghai, but the animatronics in that are incredible.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing with this one is in Tokyo. It's the Fantasy Springs. All those animatronics are incredible in the Frozen ride. And so, yeah, number 2 for me. And this, I know after you do your number 2, this conversation is going to take an interesting turn. So what is your number? I'm curious. What is your number 2? Mickey and Minnie?
Yeah, I'm really confused.
Sure.
We'll go with it.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Do I think it's in the wrong park? Yes. Do I think that people who love the Great Movie Ride were probably justified in being upset? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
But having watched ride-throughs of the Great Movie Ride, which you are correct, I didn't get to ride on, I really think that the upgrade was worth it.
I do too, and I love the original.
I think the opening scene, not the opening scene, but the showroom, where like the guy's talking back and forth with the cartoon, and then like the explosion happens, that, and then the exit being walking through that same one. You're not really walking through the same one, obviously. I think it's very well done.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. The beginning with the explosion and the wall and Goofy is really, really cool.
Now, I have been on it before when it was so early in the morning that they were just loading people, so they weren't even doing the pre-show.
Oh.
And that's kind of like...
That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Seeing that cartoon, seeing the wall open up.
Yeah. I do think it's a really cool effect. I think there's only one cooler effect in a showroom, and that would probably be at Cosmic Rewind. But, I think it's just a really cool way to do the load room. We talked just recently on our Dark Rides show about how much I love that cartoon, or that, not cartoon, but that animation style.
Paul Ruddish.
I remember now because you said...
You think of Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm. And then add an ish.
Yep.
But I think that's great. I love the music in there. And I think it's one of the rides at Hollywood Studios that's worth waiting in the heat for, honestly, because it's that good. It's for me, it's a can't miss, honestly. And yeah, I love it.
Well, my one thing I'll add too is a lot of times I think Disney needs more family rides, and they have a lot. Don't get me wrong,
especially that park.
And I think what happens is a lot of times, hey, more thrilling. We're better than the park down the road. We have this exciting new thing that's better than this park. But sometimes it's like, nope. Here's a great new modern advanced ride for families, and that's really cool.
I love the ride, the trackless system.
Mm-hmm.
I think for that park, it's needed because when you think about it, you've got that and you have Alien Swirling Saucers are probably the two that I look at and say, okay, that's for kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they've got like the Disney Junior stuff, which I don't even know if they're still doing it anymore.
I don't love it.
Yeah, but you also don't have kids that age.
Yeah, I bet.
Neither do I anymore.
Right,
but
yeah,
like,
it's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, the back corner of the park, we've talked about this because you and I experienced this. Is we would go in that back corner where we do Rock and Roller Coaster
and just stop.
And and it stops back there. But two of my kids and one of yours was like, no thanks.
Yeah,
and we all rode it. It was fine because my daughter's old enough to go around with the other young ones, and they had a good time, and that was fine.
Which will not happen again, by the way. Not my kid going off with your daughter, but like my daughter, my youngest, rode when she rode it this summer, was like, that's the greatest ride ever. Can we do it again? I was like, well, next year, but not. We're not going to do it again right now
until you do Mission Breakout.
Oh, well, that's true.
I prefer that version of it.
Oh, but no, we're not talking about Tower of Terror though.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I was talking about Rock and Roll.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Tower of Terror.
She loved that too.
My mistake.
She loved that too. But,
okay.
But she absolutely loved
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah,
cool.
like I agree. If we were in doing a Disneyland retheme,
yeah, and there's a lot of
Mission Breakout would probably top my list because I think I don't like the Tower of Terror theme.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like, to me, put in like actual Disney IP. Twilight Zone is just kind of like, well.
The difference is this: Twilight Zone and Tower of Terror it's the fear and horror and that type of vibe, haunted house kind of thing, right? Haunted hotel. When you go on Mission Breakout, it's a party. You are laughing, even though you're dropping and going up and down. You are not only so thrilled by the feeling of going up and down, but at the same time, it's the videos you're watching or the projections you're watching, whichever they are absolutely hilarious.
Right, and he's telling jokes, right?
Yeah, and you're laughing and going up and down. It's very, very, very unique ride for that reason because it's two very different emotions happening at the same time in a really good way. It's like a chocolate and peanut butter,
Okay. So I'm really interested where this is going to go.
Yeah, this is definitely I'm staying with Guardians of the Galaxy because my number one, I am going with Cosmic Rewind.
How that doesn't count.
It counts, and I'll tell you why it counts.
How does that count?
I hear where you're coming from. Because in your mind, go ahead. You explain, and then I'll tell you. I'll tell you my thought on this too.
It's a whole new building that was completely built from the ground up. It's not a retheme.
It's an extension. If you look at Test Track did not have that whole outdoor extension.
You're going to use Test Track as
it's an extension. So if you look at the main building from Ellen's Energy Adventure, they're using that same building. They went in, changed it all. So in my mind, it works because that building is the same building. They went in, they have the coaster goes in it because you load in that building. You have the queue in that building, but then it launches you off into building number 2. In my mind, that is a retheme.
By that logic, Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge are rethemes too because of the backlot tour.
Not really, because you're not using, because that was all leveled. That was leveled and they built from scratch. This wasn't all leveled. They took that building and rebuilt inside of it.
Well, the walkway to it wasn't leveled.
The walkway to it.
The walkway to Toy Story Land wasn't leveled. Rob, the rest of that park was there. All right, look, I'll allow it. And now I'm not
that's my number one.
Now I'm not as mad at you because I was like, what? How do you put Tiana's because
we both have good arguments.
It shouldn't shock anybody. Tiana's is my number one.
Yeah.
Right. If you were listening and were like me, like how is it anything but Tiana's?
Yeah.
Cosmic. Okay. Look, I'll give it to you. You're right. Ellen's energy.
To be fair, we both have good arguments. It's like a 50-50. Your point was good. I thought my point was good.
Hey, look.
We agree to disagree. That's my number one. We'll see what our listeners say.
Yeah, okay.
And if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong.
Okay, we'll put it up to a vote.
Okay.
So, listeners, there's your call to action this week.
Mm-hmm.
Is Rob wrong, and why is he wrong?
Or am I right, and why am I right?
Well, okay, sure.
See, some people are going to do that too.
Okay, that's
see.
fine. Okay, look, we'll give it to you. Tiana's for me is number one. Tiana's Bayou Adventure was an amazingly well done retheme.
Absolutely.
I don't think for me, I wasn't upset about the whole retheme. Splash Mountain was great. Don't get me wrong.
Well, know that we were all very familiar with this IP and we sort of understood how well it would fit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it fits well in Frontierland, but like.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. How well it would fit with the current ride system.
Oh, yeah. I think it's great. And people saying, well, there's no waterfall. There's no, the bayou isn't the same as a waterfall. Like, whatever. Okay, I get that.
I guess, but that is absolutely true. My point is, you're floating in a log through something.
I agree with you that this is a great retheme. And I think that honestly, the animatronics make it so great. There are some people who don't like the projections or the screens at that one spot.
That's near the end. It's probably three-quarters of the way through, and that one room is.
Yeah.
But it's cool though because it kind of.
The whole point is to make you feel like
you're shrinking down. Yeah, it's cool. Disney does that well. I
love it. I was shocked that they didn't reuse the end scene in some way.
Yeah, I figured it. Yeah, with the riverboat.
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's just an easy.
Yeah,
easy to just put Lewis on there with a trumpet and call it a day.
I was very surprised.
It's a great ride. If you have not ridden it yet, definitely consider wearing a poncho. It is not Splash Mountain where you might get wet. You will get wet on this one.
We're changing your footwear, my sneakers, and that happened with me on Frozen last time too. My shoe is soaked.
It's just there's more water in it, and I know that because there was a VIP tour behind me, and the guy said, "Do you know why you get wetter this time?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "Because there's more water. They legitimately put more water in it." And I think he alluded to the fact that it was supposed to make you feel more like you're in the bayou, or like you're kind of floating in the log, like it's supposed to be swampy. I think one thing you didn't mention was the retheme of the queue was done really well. Mm-hmm. The outdoors with the garden, and you're walking through, like there's the okra plants and there's the pepper plants and there's the.
I think when those trees fill in a little bit more, it'll be a little less
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It could also depend on the time of the year and the leaves. I don't really know that the way those trees and the way the leaves work in Central Florida.
Did they have fans cranking when you were there?
Yeah, but not as many.
So they had these big, huge portable fans when we were there that were just.
They had one, and it was right by the entrance to the door to go in and up the stairs. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. There were like 4 or 5 going when we were there.
They only had one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. It was like a big, very modern looking, like a gray kind of fan. There's only one.
Yeah. I personally love this ride. I think it's very well done. And I will say that one of my favorite memories from this ride one of my very favorite memories from Disney were from this ride in its former incarnation with you guys.
Oh yeah.
When we decided to go on there and time the fireworks, was such a cool thing.
Oh, it's one of my
Such a
favorite
cool
memories at Disney ever, too.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we were outside in the log. We sort of, I think it was after the first climb, actually. We had the first climb, and then we kind of wrap around outdoors.
Yeah.
And you can see the castle and everything over in Frontierland, and the fireworks were going off. And it was timed great where all the times we were outside, we're seeing fireworks. It was incredible. And we did that one time accidentally when they were doing the midday fireworks when we were on Mine Train, and we go around the corner and boom, the fireworks go off.
Yeah, it's an amazing ride, and I in particular I think this ride it does it well. Does the animatronics well, does the songs well, and the movie, that particular IP I love. So I know you have some honorable mentions.
Yeah, I have a lot of honorable mentions, and we're actually going to do that this week in our Patreon episode. So if you would like to hear it, you can. Can't you download individual ones too? Is that still a thing, or is that not a thing anymore?
I mean, I could turn on that option. It's kind of I can turn that option on.
All right. Well, don't worry about it. But we invite our listeners to help us out, and even if you can subscribe for 1 month, that would be great.
Yeah, you can listen
to everything. Not very expensive at all.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that we did not mention.
I do have one honorable mention that I think is hilarious, so I want to say it.
Go for it, even if it's on this list.
Instead of a retheme, I want to go with a D-theme. No, seriously though. So my honorable mention is the fact that Disney actually de-themed the Tiki Room. Because
I didn't have that on here, but you're absolutely right.
So
quick story, and then we'll be out here. Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say the fact that they got rid of Zazu and
Iago.
Iago. That's definitely one of the
people hated it so much, and they they hit reset and went back to the original.
So that's my honorable mention is a D theme, not a re-theme.
Fair. Definitely fair.
But thanks guys for listening, and please go check out patreon.com/DizListPod, or if you like this election shirt for Buzz and Woody, to the, what is it, from the Toy Box? What did I put on this one? The Toy Box and Beyond.
Cool.
Because that's what they're going to take this country to, is the Toy Box and Beyond. So Buzz and Woody 2024. That's our official endorsement for president.
Check out magicmerch.art if you're interested in that shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.